Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. Sorry guys, we are not in the East Dulwich Tavern. Sad times. We had a bit of a staff shortage this week, so we weren't able to film there this week, but we will be back there next week, and hopefully every week leading up to Christmas. We'll actually be doing a bumper show at one stage, which will go out over the Christmas period as well, so there'll be plenty of East Dulwich Tavern to get your teeth stuck into over the next few weeks. But to get your teeth stuck into today, I've got Michael McCubbin and Henry Hill. Henry, how are you, my man?
Yeah, good, thank you. Lost again with the Football Daily five-a-side team last night. I think that's 12 in a row, according to Zach's Twitter page. Zach missed a penalty. Should let it be known wherever.
Was it decisive, the penalty?
Well, we lost 2-1. It was at the start.
Well, I'd say that's decisive.
Yeah.
Zach in the bin.
Yeah, absolutely. But now I've just had my first mince pie and had a nice lunch looking at your Twitter feed, Doogie, which has been... Your Atletico fans are loving you right now, so I've been enjoying that.
Yeah, I was going to get onto that when you guys came to me, but I might as well just now. Yeah, I criticised some of the output of the recent forward Simeone has bought compared to their previous seasons, which included Rodrigo de Paul and Thomas Lemar, who have, of course, been playing in midfield. And Atleti fans got so angry. Just don't criticise Diego Simeone on Twitter. He is their god, and rightly so. He's done phenomenally well there. But I think he could be open to a bit of criticism with the way their attack has functioned over the last number of years, particularly in the Champions League. I know that this year most of their issues are defensively, and Jan Oblak dropping off as well, which we're going to get into our big match predictions as well. But yeah, a lot of personal abuse coming my way on Twitter, guys. I was putting out fires left, right, centre in my mentions all morning. It was very, very feisty indeed. McCubbs, you've had a more sedate day so far, a little bit hungover from the Christmas meal last night.
Yeah, I had a Christmas meal with my house last night, so yeah, just a little bit worse for wear, but we keep on going. Looking forward to have people getting their teeth stuck into me, as you said at the start of the episode. And I got my teeth stuck into some nice turkey yesterday, and a really good Scotch egg. And what else did I have? I had like a bread and butter pudding thing at the pub I went to, so that was nice. But I did miss a lot of I've missed almost all the Champions League action this week as a result. So I need to catch up on a lot of that. Because it seemed there was quite a lot happened, didn't it? But I've not seen enough.
Yeah, there was a lot of drama, definitely. I don't think there was any really, really crazy results. But yeah, Barcelona dropping out into the Europa League is probably the story of the week. But today, guys, we are talking RB Leipzig, who had a phenomenal result on Tuesday night, actually beat Man City. So it might seem like a strange time to be doing a how to fix RB Leipzig. But we wanted to talk about this because Stay Matthews said, Jesse Marsch being let go from Leipzig seems very harsh in my opinion. Who do you think would be a good replacement? As I said, they then won in his absence on Tuesday against Man City in a game that they thoroughly deserved to win against they're still a pretty strong Man City side. Yeah. They did have Kyle Walker sent off pretty late on. But Henry, what has kind of gone down with Jesse Marsch, the predecessor in the role, as it were? Because it's all ended a little bit sooner than we thought it was going to.
I'm gutted. I didn't think they'd pull the trigger on him so early, and it did look like there was a moment where he'd got it together again, but he is out of the job. Obviously, he's the company man, as he called himself at Red Bull, been with in New York and obviously over in Salzburg as well, which he actually, very impressive what he did with Salzburg, really put them on the path to where we see them today, reaching the knockout rounds of the Champions League. Well done to them for that, must be said. Yeah, but it's just really fallen apart in Germany. But it was. I've said this a million times. It was always going to be really hard replacing Nagelsmann in that role. Nagelsmann is, in my opinion, one of the top 5 coaches in the world, if not top 3 at the moment. Certainly the best for his age group. The best there really is. He led Salzburg. He led Leipzig to 3rd and 2nd. Also reached the DFB Pokal final in 2021. Tons of goals in their attack in 1920, 81 league goals. And that's 15 more than their previous Bundesliga best. So, really all-round excellent coach. They hardly conceded goals either, his Leipzig side too. So just excellently coached front and back. But yeah, I said this in a tweet, I think this week, that I think that Red Bull need to shoulder a lot of the blame for what we've seen so far. There's a constant turnover of personnel within the squad, and it's always going to be really difficult to maintain certain levels when you're having to rebuild sides. Actually, when we look at Tedesco at Schalke, and we'll come on to him in a bit, it's a similar kind of story, because here he lost £100 million worth of talent. Upamecano, Konate, Sabitzer as well. Obviously, some of those were out of their hands in terms of
big names.
Yeah, but out of the hands in terms of the contracts. Big names, as you say. Bought in Andre Silva, Gavardiol, Angelino. Like Gavardiol, bear in mind, is relatively untested prior to this campaign. Obviously, playing very well. But even with Simakan as well, coming from Strasbourg, it's not sort of the highest heights, is it? Henriks and Elias Moriba, a transfer that hasn't worked out at all, quite frankly. Got off to a pretty poor start, lost 3 of their 4 first league games. Then, as I said, went unbeaten through their next 7, winning 4. I really thought this was going to be it. I thought this is where he was going to turn around the season. Didn't happen at all. Lost 3 in a row to Hoffenheim, Bayer Leverkusen, then Union Berlin, conceding 7 goals in the process. It just looks a little bit shaky, hasn't he? Champions League, it did look like their form had turned around as well. Tough group featuring, obviously, PSG and Manchester City. They only took 1 point from their first 4 games. But then, got a result against Club Brugge, got that 2-2 draw away at PSG. Did look like it was going to finish on a high. But, yeah, obviously the Leipzig board have just panicked a little bit and decided that he really isn't the right man for the side moving forward. I can't express how disappointed I am with this. I really hope that he gets Jesse Marsch gets given an opportunity to go elsewhere and show what he can do, because I do think he's a good coach. I just think, was this a step too high for him? Perhaps, but I think there's certainly a club for him out there where he can sort of work on the magic that we saw at Salzburg. He's just going to need time and a bit of trust from the owners. But I mean, with his language ability, he's got a number of options, and I think a lot of people will continue to look at Jesse Marsch going forward. But yeah, I mean, I'll be intrigued to hear from you boys where you think it went wrong.
Yeah, I think it's just really difficult to take over Nagelsmann. It's like whoever's going to take over from Klopp or Guardiola, like someone who has inspired the players probably to play a little bit above their level over the last couple of years and got them on this path to a more sort of expansive style of play, not just counter-attacking that we'd seen under Hasenhüttl and Rangnick over the last, previous years over that as well. More sort of coordinated build-up play, etc. And it was interesting reading Rafa Honigstein's article in The Athletic post Jesse Marsch's sacking, and he basically argued that he was the right manager but at the wrong point in their history, just as they're trying to evolve a bit further beyond that 4-2-2-2, which we're now seeing Rangnick introduce at Man United. And Peter Galacci, sort of obviously their keeper, one of their main players as well, sort of emphasised that this was a bit of an issue. He said, we were used to playing like that and instinctively did things contrary to what he wanted. That's what Jesse Marsch wanted. So it felt like there was a little bit of a battle going on within the squad about how they were going to play and how they were going to move forward. And Galacci also added that the squad didn't suit him. He said many of the players were bought in for possession-based football over the last couple of years. Apparently, according to this article by Honigstein, who is probably the de facto, German football expert in Europe, really, or at least in the English media that we know of, he said that there were some reservations in the squad about his tactical prowess from his time under Rangnick as an assistant coach in 2018-19. And the squad even raised that with the club's hierarchy. But the club's hierarchy at that time were also dealing with the departure of Marcus Grosch, their sporting director. So it felt like those sort of warnings sort of slightly slipped through the net. But as Henry says, I think this year was really about qualifying for the Champions League. I don't think RB Leipzig, they weren't out of it by any stretch qualifying for the Champions League. And I think they would have got better as the season progressed. But RB Leipzig have taken pretty decisive action to get rid of him. I suppose it makes sense now in the Cubs to talk about his successor. It was confirmed just 5 hours ago, earlier on Thursday. We're filming this on Thursday afternoon. Domenico Tedesco is the man in. They did look at some other options though as well, is that right?
Yeah, they looked at Ruben Amorim. He didn't want to leave Sporting CP. Same with Roger Schmidt at PSV. But I mean, I think Tedesco, is a potentially exciting appointment. I think, one of those, like you were saying, Dukes, that I get the impression that perhaps Jesse Marsch had lost the players a little bit with this stuff coming out, kind of reservations over his tactics and whatnot. I think there was stuff about, they felt like he perhaps wasn't detailed enough with his tactical instructions, which I think is a bit of an issue. And I think, again, that's probably a hangover from having Nagelsmann, who is obviously so meticulous with everything that he does. I think it may well have just been a case of the players kind of feeling like the standards weren't high enough in terms of the coaching. And also, I think, like you said, I think with the Marcus Krosch thing is really interesting as well. I think Red Bull, or Leipzig at least at this moment in time, are probably just not as organised a club as they were maybe 2-3 years ago. I think he left because he didn't want to sell Upamecano. I think he was quite annoyed about the nature of Nagelsmann's departure as well. And then he obviously he's now at Frankfurt, and he hired Oliver Glasner for Frankfurt. I think Oliver Glasner perhaps was one of his kind of choices, perhaps to take over from Nagelsmann as well. So I think in terms of the decision making at the club, in some ways it's not too surprising that it seems a bit muddled at the moment. Obviously, we're not used to seeing a sacking halfway through the season with this club. But obviously, we haven't seen Leipzig start a Bundesliga season this badly so far either. But I think
I was reading they've never finished lower than 6th since coming up to the Bundesliga, which
that was
mental.
Just once. I mean, they've finished in the top 3 every other season. It's quite a big foot considering as well. That first season under Nagelsmann, they had like a goal difference of plus 44. It was truly elite stuff. But I think that's maybe where Tedesco could win over the squad. I don't know a huge amount personally of his kind of tactical style and stuff, so I can't say I'm an expert on it, but one thing I do or have read is that he is incredibly meticulous with the way that he does things. He got the Schalke job in 2017 kind of off the back of saving this Bundesliga Zwei team, Erzgebirge, I think that's how you pronounce them, or Erzgebirge. Forgive me, any German fans, if that was terrible. But he saved them from relegation within about 13 games in a 13-game stint, and clearly impressed there a lot. And I think that's one thing that's former players of him have said, that he was super meticulous. He was a good motivator as well, but tactically. Very clear in what he wants his players to do, and he did a really good job at Schalke, who, like Henry was alluding to, were in a big transitional phase as well. Well, I mean, they were kind of kicking off what has been a nightmare few years, and he managed to take them to second. They finished 21 points off Bayern at the time, but obviously Bayern were in a pretty supreme possession even back then as well, in terms of just being kind of light years ahead of the rest of the Bully. He did things like, managed to convince Amina Harit to join the club. Obviously, he, ended up being one of their star players in quite tumultuous times. He managed to persuade him, to join them over Premier League clubs. He kick-started the career of Thilo Kehrer, gave him a lot of responsibility in the back line. That led to his big money move to PSG. So in terms of, being a motivator, in terms of being able to organise a side, get them playing very functionally and getting quite consistent results. I think you can look at his time at Schalke and see why a club like Leipzig, why he might suit them in terms of taking over a young squad who are quite mouldable. Although and also a side that does need a bit more defensive solidity. I think you can kind of see the thinking there. It didn't end too well at Schalke. Obviously, he was sacked after they lost 7-0 to Man City in the Champions League. So, it's not all great, but equally he's super young. 36 years old, already got a ton of experience. As obviously managed in different countries as well. The Spartak Moscow fans were very sad to see him go. So he's done a good job there as well. And I know, Henry, you've been looking into a bit of what he was doing in Russia.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of continuation from his work at Schalke. It's interesting, obviously he got fired at Schalke, but this is after a summer window where they sold, Goretzka went to Bayern Munich, Max Meyer went to Crystal Palace, Thilo Kehrer to PSG.
What a move that was.
Yeah. Thilo Kehrer to PSG, even Benedikt Howardis to Lokomotiv. And Franco De Santo, who was actually quite good for Schalke, or at certain moments, or certainly was in Germany. He was much better in Germany than he was in the UK. He went to Rio. So they lost a lot of players, and he was tasked with sort of rebuilding a side, and it didn't quite work out. But at Spartak, he's continued. He likes to use a 3-5-2 in principle. That's the formation. He was more flexible in Germany than he was in Russia, but 3-5-2 tends to be his formation. once again, brilliant working with younger players. If we look, he led them to second in 2021. Their side were a lot more attacking than certainly his Schalke side were, but I mean, I think that's the nature of the league more than anything. But he had much more. He had some exciting players at his disposal. Jordan Larsson, Henrik Larsson's son, Alex Krau, who we've seen go to West Ham. He was heavily hyped in the summer. Alexander Sobolov, I think he leads the line for Russia now. Ezequiel Ponce and Ayrton. These are all guys who are around the 23 mark last year, and really performed so well under Tedesco. And Spartak's drop-off has been massive without him. I think they're 9th in the Russian Premier League now. Bear in mind there's only 16 teams, so that's not great at all. Jordan Larsson is yet to score in the Russian Premier League. He hit 15 last term, so you can see sort of leading on to what McCubbin said about the motivational aspects. They've probably, whoever's taken over there quite clearly isn't able to live up to Tedesco's standards, who was really adored by the Spartak fans at certain points. They sort of high pass accuracy under him as well. In a high percentage of aerial duels, they're very aggressive, but also took the second most shots in the division behind Zenit. So sort of all round a very solid side. And what's interesting actually, so although the 3-5-2 is fairly orthodox, he tends to, in possession, certainly in build-up, play a 5-1-4, almost like a 6-4.
Jeez.
He basically splits the. I was reading. He basically splits the two teams, his side in half, and the defence are tasked with breaking the press themselves, and then just carrying the ball up to the forward line, where the front four are kind of released together. They don't cross the ball very much at all. It's all about sort of working the final third. It's quite high risk the way that he deploys his defence, and he almost uses like a double pivot. So one of the centre halves pushes forwards, and then it would have been Alex Krau last year. He was almost like the star conductor of the show, sort of knocking the ball in around in the middle, and then the two sort of central midfielders would be the ones tasked with splitting wide. The wing backs don't overload as much as perhaps you might expect. It's more very much defence and attack split down the middle. So it's quite an interesting system, but they do work well at isolating the forwards one-on-one with the defenders, and that's kind of where we see a lot of their chances being created from. So yeah, I'm quite intrigued to see how that's going to translate into this Leipzig side. But I think, if considering how organised he had his side forward and back, I think kind of what McCubbin said, that's going to be really appreciated by the Leipzig players. I think you're going to see them concede a lot less than they have been doing so far, and I think that the attack's going to be a bit more innovative, because at the moment in time they've been basically relying on Nkunku to sort of get them out of dodgy situations, with Szoboszlai sort of coming back to form as well. They've got a lot of fairly similar players, Leipzig. I think this is kind of the problem. I've always thought their recruitment was a little bit muddled in certain ways. There's not sort of too much distinctive players within that side, in my opinion. But yeah, Dukes, I mean, what judged on that kind of evidence, what do you think he needs to kind of do with this Leipzig side?
It's interesting. I think the manager is the big ask in this how to fix, because I actually think Leipzig's squad is probably more well-rounded than Dortmund's, and almost deeper in some areas than Bayern's. I know it just doesn't have that star quality as a going forward that Bayern's does, but I do think they've got really good depth in pretty much every area. So in terms of their problems, they clearly haven't been performing as well as they could have this year, but their attack is still pretty good. They're averaging 1.9 expected goals per game. That's down from 2 last year, so not a dramatic drop-off. But it's their defence that has really suffered this year, which is to be expected when you put in, 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5 entirely new members to that back line who are all under the age of sort of 25. So I think there's naturally going to be teething problems, but it has leapt from 0.9 expected goals against per game to over 1.7. Their expected goals against of 23 in 14 games, ranked 64th in Europe, between Celta Vigo and Strasbourg, who, the latter have had a pretty good defensive record over the last few years. But having spent so much on the defence, RB Leipzig would hope for better than that. In terms of the problem positions, I'm going to put to you guys who you potentially look to fix them. You could look at Galachi and say he's 31, but I actually think he's still performing really, really well in goal. I'd definitely not, get rid of him anytime soon. And then you look at that defence, I think you've got to kind of back them to develop together. I think Simakan, Gvardiol in particular, I think is really impressed in some of those games. I really remember that assist for Nkunku in that game against Dortmund, which was phenomenal. And Helinho was really good last season in particular as well. So you kind of got to let them develop. And then you go forward, Andre Silva probably hasn't shone as much as you'd expect in the league at least. 3 goals in 14 games in the Bundesliga, but he has scored 3 and 6 in the Champions League and played really, really well against Man City in midweek, with that goal and also getting that red card out of Kyle Walker, who completely lost his head in that moment. Given the fact he's their second most expensive signing of all time, they probably need to back him. So I was thinking more over the next 12, 18 months in terms of how to fix Leipzig. It's not really how to fix them right now. It's maybe to look at what's going to emerge in the next 12 to 18 months. And I think we're going to see Christopher Nkunku leave. I think Amadou Haidara is going to leave. There's a lot of talk about Man United. And Nordi Mukiele as well has been linked with Real Madrid, Man United as well. So I basically want solutions to those problems. McCubs, Nkunku this year, if we're trying to find a replacement for him, it's going to be pretty difficult in terms of instantly hitting the ground running, because he has been phenomenal this season.
Yeah, he's been amazing. And I think with the problem with Nkunku is that he's been able to fulfill so many roles for them, hasn't he? 2 years ago he was arguably the best creator in the entire league. This season his goal scoring has obviously taken a step up, and he's kind of practically the spearhead of that side. That's obviously been a bit of a problem for Andre Silva in terms of the attack not really working around him. But equally, if Tedesco can get the side to work more for Andre Silva than someone, I don't think they necessarily need someone like Nkunku, or at least not someone who's performing in the way that Nkunku is now, because I think they do have an excellent creator in Dominic Szoboszlai who can back him up.
Danny Olmo too is very creative.
You forget that. Kind of backing up what Henry's saying. You've got Nkunku, Szoboszlai, and Danny Olmo who do all like to take up kind of similar positions on the pitch. So in terms of someone who can at least create from out wide and contribute in the final third, you've got someone like Silas at Stuttgart. Obviously had an amazing last season before injury. 11 goals and 4 assists in 25 league games. He was creating around 3 chances a game, completing over 2 dribbles, super fast. You've got someone like Pedro Neto at Wolves, who's obviously had a bit of a quieter year this year than last, mainly due to injury, but was one of the best young players in the Premier League last term. You've got someone like Noah Lang at Club Bruges.
Go on.
He obviously is being linked with every club under the sun at the moment.
I'd love that.
Henry's obviously a fan, but he's been brilliant. He had 2021 was just absolutely superb, wasn't he? He seems like a Leipzig player, doesn't he? In a lot of ways. So I think they've got a lot of options. I don't think it's necessarily like the number one position they need. I feel like we'll probably get onto defensive midfield. Because I do think, losing Sabitzer was probably, in some ways, Sabitzer was a bigger loss than Upamecano and Konate, because I think there was always a sense that those two were going to leave, right? Whereas Sabitzer was kind of an RB Leipzig lifer, and obviously was the captain, was the heartbeat of that midfield, particularly
come up through the divisions,
particularly amazing last year, where he was kind of, playing so many different kind of roles in the centre of the park. So I feel like that's almost a bigger area of concern for them. I don't know what you boys think.
Well, I was going to ask Henry about this. Henry, the difficulty when you're trying to find solutions for RB Leipzig is that they notoriously don't really spend money or large amounts of money in terms of the European elite on proven talents. They more go for young developing players that they can mould into the sort of Red Bull way. Do you think that is potentially a problem if they're looking to crack the Bundesliga and the Champions League over the next 10 years? And for the second question is, do you think midfield is an area of concern?
Sometimes, yeah. I think that they've got an incredibly young squad. A lot of the positives we're talking about are all guys that are expected to come good in a season or two. I do think there's an element of they need to buy some more players who are perhaps ready-made, get them in on a contract where they're going to have a bit of stability which you can work around. Like Amadou Haidara, technically, under Tedesco, will be brilliant. He will be that guy who can do everything, forward and back, playmaker, brilliant short passer, excellent arriving in the final third, getting out wide if he needs to, but also putting in the defensive shift as well. Haidara would be perfect, but we'll probably see him disappear. And I've been racking my brains over like the French market, for example, somewhere which Leipzig tend to do very well in, trying to find sort of some suitable replacements, and it's not easy at all. It's really not easy at all. I mean, honestly, looking at maybe like Marseille, Gerson, Balerdi, if Marseille run into some kind of financial difficulty, these are the kind of players that maybe they could pick up. Slightly impressive in centre midfield there. But yeah, for me, I'd love to see Leipzig really go in for some perhaps a serious holding central midfielder who you know is guaranteed going to be there for the next few years, and someone who you can really base the team around, because we've seen with like Lille with Benjamin Andre, we've seen it with other sides. As long as you just have a really solid core spine who tends to be reliable, the rest of the squad can be fairly flexible. And I think this is the kind of thinking they need to maybe move towards, so that every coach, whoever comes in, doesn't have to continuously sort of rematch the pieces of this jigsaw puzzle. Because someone like Bayern Munich, who only make big additions every now and then, who is such a... If you look at the core of that side, they know each other inside and out. Obviously, it's a final destination for most players. It's difficult to ever match those kind of teams for the way that they gel together. And yeah, so I think that's Leipzig's big next step, is buying maybe some more kind of long-termers into that squad.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's just a tricky balance to run, isn't it? You don't really know what their business model is long term, and whether you do. I mean, how possible is it to get to the top without spending big money? I mean, Ajax would suggest that you can make it if you've got a sort of deep set philosophy and sort of bring your players through in a certain way, which ultimately proves to be successful. A dream move for RB Leipzig? I can't see it happening personally. I think, bigger clubs than Leipzig will be after him this summer, but someone like Kalvin Phillips I think would be absolutely awesome for Leipzig. Plays in a similar-ish sort of, pretty helter-skelter, high-energy, high-intensity system under Bielsa. But yeah, he's going to cost at least £50 million, and I just don't know whether Leipzig would fork that out on a single player. A more realistic option, if they wanted Martin Zubimendi to add a bit of ballast maybe to a bit of that central midfield. I mean, Konrad Laimer, Haidara, Tyler Adams, all lovely players, but maybe lacking a little bit of physicality as well. Maybe Zubimendi.
Tchouaméni. Maybe they could get him.
Yeah.
Tchouaméni, that would be awesome as well. Again, it's similar to Kalvin Phillips. I just don't know whether they can get a Tchouaméni, but again, that would be awesome. Right back, you may be looking at Youcef Atal, someone like that. If Mukiele left from Nice, he's got a lot of experience there. He's still only 25, really solid defensively for a number of years now, and doing really well at Nice. So yeah, Youcef Atal, definitely one to watch. But guys, what would you do with Leipzig? Do you think Tedesco is the right appointment? Are you feeling a little bit sorry for Marsch? And who would be your signings to take them to the next level? We found that pretty difficult, I think, because generally their squad is pretty damn good. But let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and let's move on to our big match predictions. Okay guys, it's time for everyone's favourite news section. Into its third week, it's big match predictions time. Let's have a little review of last week. So we did Klassiker. Henry and McCubs both went for Dortmund. They were feeling pretty bold. I went 3-1 to Bayern. It was 3-2, so I got 1 point there. Those two with nil point. For Roma versus Inter, we all backed Inter. Henry and I went 2-1. McCubs went 3-1. The final score was 3-0, so none of us get the perfect score there. Real Sociedad versus Real Madrid. Henry, you went for a draw, and McCubs and I both went for a 2-0 win for Real Madrid, so we each get 3 points. So, at the end of week 2, the scores read, Doogie's on 10 points, McCubs is on 4, and Henry's on 3. So I'm looking to build my lead this week, but you guys, there's plenty more to come. Guys, we're going to kick off with a big clash in Ligue 1. It's first versus 7th. It's PSG versus Monaco. The sides are separated by 16 points, which I couldn't quite believe when I looked at the table. The gap was only 4 at the end of last season, so you can tell these sides are having very different domestic campaigns, at least results-wise, because PSG fans are not happy with Pochettino one bit. McCubs, what are you making about this fixture? What do you think is going to go down?
It's hard to see anything. I think PSG are just going to... I don't know. I've not been particularly impressed with... Well, Monaco just haven't had a good season, haven't they? Have they so far?
No.
They're not really impressing in any area of the pitch, really. Ben Yedder's... got like 9 goals, but I think 4 of them have been penalties. I don't know. Yeah, I just think PSG are a lot stronger. Although they haven't been great in Ligue 1 recently. They had a great win in midweek in the Champions League. So yeah, I think it will be... I don't know. I think it will be a narrow victory for PSG. I think it'll be like 2-1.
Fair enough. I mean, Henry, Monaco, pretty disappointing this season. Really sort of surprisingly poor.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they had a really bad start, didn't they? 1 win and 3 defeats in their first 6 games. 14th by mid-September. I think there was lots of talk that maybe Kovac was going to lose his job, which was quite a shame, actually, because I think he's done very well since he's been there in principle. But they're now 7th, 3 points off third place Marseille, so really back in the running, certainly for Champions League football. They've still got a really good side, don't they? I mean, Kevin Volland and Ben Yedder up top is, aside from
Kevin Volland, I think, is really underrated.
He is. Him. Yeah, no, he's a hard worker. You're always guaranteed to get around 10, 12, 15 goals from him. So I think I really enjoyed that signing that they made there. You never know. They do have it is always a little bit different when they play PSG. There's always a bit more to it. Obviously, every team wants to go and be the guys to beat PSG. We've seen that last few weeks. They drew against Nice and Lens. They haven't looked really impressive at all, have they? Let's face it. PSG. The problem is they've got, with Mbappe and Messi, you've just got players that can, irrelevant of how well the team's playing, can just dig you out of holes, can't you? I mean, we've kind of seen that. They looked a lot better against Bruges, I must say. But you know what? I'm haunted. I'm haunted by last week when I backed Dortmund, and you were like, "You're an idiot." So I don't want to back Monaco. I'm gonna go for another draw. I'm gonna say 1-1.
I think it's arguably a lot less stupid to back Monaco against PSG than it is Dortmund against Bayern, going on recent history and how they've been performing so far this year. I couldn't believe it when I was doing the little research for this section. 12 of PSG's 36 league goals have come after 76 minutes, which just goes to show, the quality of that bench, quality players with better fitness records than a lot of teams in Ligue 1. Pochettino can make such a difference in the latter stages of games, and I think a lot of that has come down to luck as well. The amount of goals after 85 minutes, etc., doesn't suggest very good planning. I'm going to go 1-0 PSG. I don't think it's going to be that entertaining for some reason. I think Neymar missing for the next couple of months is going to affect the amount of entertainment that we get from them. But yeah, I'm going 1-0 PSG. What did you say, McCub? Sorry.
I went 2-1 PSG. Yeah.
2-1 PSG. And Henry, you went
1-1.
1-1. Love it. Okay, let's move on to our second game. Real Madrid versus Atletico Madrid. Enormous game in the title race. Real are already 8 points clear of Sevilla, who have a game in hand, and 10 clear of Atleti, who also have a game in hand. Also, guys, no one criticised Atletico Madrid or Simeone on Twitter. But Henry, what are your thoughts about this one?
Real Madrid victory. You know what? After watching what Atletico did against Porto midweek, I mean, I was going to say I'm happy that Matheus Cunha is coming good to a point there. I had Euro Expert on me at Twitter for telling me how I got that wrong, but actually it does look like Cunha.
He had a go at me this week as well for doubting that Lille wouldn't get through.
I know he's Alex. I know you're watching, so just you watch out. So, but I actually think Real Madrid are brilliant. They're playing so well. I thought they've only lost 2 of their 22 games in all competitions this season against Sheriff. One of those. What that makes that result even more weird. But yeah, I just think Atletico, I've not been impressed with them at all. I just want to give a quick shout out to the Portuguese sides who've done so well in the Champions League this year. Sporting, Benfica, both through. Porto, really unlucky not to get through. I really feel like the Primeira Liga is in a great moment at the moment. And actually, kind of talking about earlier, Amorim and Conceição, the managers which they're producing would have been equally good for a top job anywhere in Europe at the moment. So yeah, shout out to them. But yeah, in this game, I'm going to go for a 2-0 Real Madrid victory.
Yeah, I also like the fact that Amorim said, no, I don't want to leave Sporting CP mid-season for RB Leipzig, which is on paper a much bigger, more lucrative job probably. But yeah, fair play to him. McCubs, what are your thoughts about this? Are you thinking there could be an upset or no?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Real Madrid have been much better than Atleti this season. I think they've been much better than almost any side, I think, aside from maybe Sevilla in Spain. Having said that, I just feel like I feel like Real Madrid's charge to the title can't be that simple, and I feel like this is the kind of game where perhaps they do get a twist, bit unstuck.
Really,
I feel like Simeone. I'm trying to remember back, but I feel like Simeone had a decent record against Ancelotti back when they came up against each other back in the day.
You're testing me. I can't remember, but
I mean, I'm mainly thinking the Champions League final, which they should have won. But I feel like that season they must have got at least. I feel like they did beat them in the league that season. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but Yeah, I just think I don't know. I think it might be like a 1-1 draw. I just feel like there's a game like this. I know Atleti have a pretty bad record against them in recent years, but yeah, I can just see them. I can see Simeone really setting out to frustrate this Real Madrid side. And yeah, I think if there's a team that can do it, Atleti is one of them. So yeah, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
They are just they're so classic Atleti. Like, you knew as soon as Porto got their player, you knew as soon as Atleti got their player sent off that they were going to do everything they could in the next 10 minutes to try and equal it out as 10-all, and or 10 men aside. And yeah, they got through in the end, but I just haven't been that impressed by Atleti so far. It's got me into a lot of trouble this week. I think their forwards, considering the talent at his disposal, I think Simeone's underachieving. I don't think their defence has been as good as usual.
God, dude.
And actually, weirdly, Jan Oblak has had a pretty poor campaign by his own exceptional standards. So yeah, I'm not been too impressed by Atleti so far, but God forbid you put it on Twitter because they come at you hard. I'm going to go... You know what? I'm just going to go 2-0 Real Madrid. I'm in that kind of mood today against Atleti. So yeah, put that in your pipe and smoke it, Los Rocky Blancos.
Make it 3, Dukes. I went 2-0. Make it 3. Go on.
Okay, yeah, fine. 3. Vinicius to score another one in the 88th minute. How do you like that? Oh, brilliant. Okay, third one and final one. Leipzig versus Gladbach. We've talked a lot about Leipzig in this show already, but guys, I mean, McCubs, Gladbach have been all over the shop this season.
Yeah, I mean, losing 6-0 to Freiburg on the weekend, that's not great for team morale, is it?
No.
Yeah, they've had a weird one, haven't they? Obviously, that got that huge victory over Bayern in the Pokal as well, but yeah, I mean, generally they've just been incredibly average, haven't they? They rank like 11th for goals scored in the league. They've conceded loads as well. And I think Leipzig just have, like we were saying, like Leipzig have a good squad. They'll be riding hard for victory over Man City midweek. I think, I'm not sure whether Tedesco will be in the dugout for the game, but equally, I think seems to be a bit of optimism around the club. There's probably a bit of a kind of relief after what was clearly quite a difficult couple of months. So yeah, I think Leipzig will probably win this quite comfortably. I'm going to say 2-0.
Nice. I doubt Tedesco will be in the dugout just because the rules in, I think, East Germany have much stronger COVID rules at the moment. So if he's flown in from Russia, I know because he left Russia in the summer, didn't he? Because he wanted a longer break and be back with his family. So I don't know where he was flying in from, but who knows? Maybe he'll be in isolation. Probably should have checked that out before the show. Apologies, guys. But yeah, if he's in the dugout or not, I'm with my Cubs. I think they'll be riding high. Gladbach, confidence all over the shop at the moment. Far too easy to score against Freiburg, who scored, I think, all their goals within the first 39 minutes or 36 minutes. Absolutely mental. So I'm going to go 3-1 to Leipzig. Henry, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, just quick apology to Freiburg. Last week on the show, I meant it in a very polite way that they were boring. They were more defensively sound. Nothing wrong with that. I was a Fulham fan in the era of Roy Hodgson. We did exactly the same. And then, 6 different scorers, 6-0 by half time. So, yeah, shut me up. But yeah, 2-1. 2-1 to Leipzig.
Perfect. Let's quickly do a quick fire question. We have been rattling on for ages. Lay Nasso says, Atalanta look really impressive again. Can they win Serie A? Now, Henry, fair play to give you your dues. A couple of weeks ago, you said watch out for Atalanta. They're really in the race now. Yeah,
I mean, it's one of the reasons is familiarity within the squad. I think it's so important. A lot of these guys have been there a very long time. There's not a massive... They don't sell tons of players every season. They bought really well, bringing in Demiral, who replaced Romero, who obviously went to Spurs. And Muriel up top, Zapata. They've got sort of recognisable figures who love obviously playing under Gasperini and love scoring goals. I still feel as if Inter Milan are perhaps the favourites for the title. Obviously, Napoli and AC Milan can't be written off either. But I think this is Atalanta's best opportunity. If they're ever actually going to win something major under Gasperini, I think this is probably the season. I really think it is. I think they have to capitalise on this moment. And what a story it would be, because irrelevant of how big we think Atalanta are in recent years, they're still technically a tiny club from Bergamo or 25,000 seater stadium, one of the lowest budgets that you'll see amongst any of the Champions League sides. Certainly in Europe's top 5 leagues. It would be a stunning achievement. I think if they can just go on a bit of a streak, start putting wins together, the thing I like about Atalanta, which gives me confidence to say they maybe could do this, is they're not the kind of team that just goes and wins 1-0, 2-1, shut. They're always looking to score goals. They're always looking to crack open the opposition. So they're not. I don't think they're going to freeze at any moment really. And they've got to finals recently. Obviously lost the Coppa Italia to Juventus, but it shows that they do have the pedigree to go deep in these competitions. We're so close to beating PSG in that Champions League as well. Sure, why not? I think they could definitely win Serie A.
It's going to be fascinating, and whoever comes out on top in this four-way race now, it looks like. We were saying three-way last week, but four-way race by the looks of things. You know, each of those managers, they've never won Serie A before, so it's going to be, you know, it's going to get pretty nerve-wracking down that sort of March stretch. But Macab's injuries are falling their way at the moment, with Napoli and AC Milan missing some key men at the moment. Mukiele out to the rest of the season as well.
Yeah, I mean, and Osimhen's out obviously for a long time for Napoli. You know, that rules him out of the AFCON as well, which is a big shame for him because I think he would have been, you know, he could have had a huge tournament. I think Atalanta, like they have a really, really good chance. And the thing is as well, like, I mean, you say, Henry, that this is like their you know, as good a chance that they'll have, and I agree, but like, you know, if things had gone slightly differently in the last 2 seasons, they could have won. You know, they could have beaten Inter to the title potentially last year. They could have beaten Juve to the title in 2020. Like, when you looked at like the performances, when you looked at the attacking numbers that they were producing, like they were, like they have been as good as anyone in Italy pretty much for the last 2 years. And yeah, I think just missing a few big results in big games ultimately. And you know, yeah, really impressive victory over Napoli on the weekend. You know, Demiral, what a goal from him. Like I mean, there's this is easily the most open title race we've had, and yeah, like you're saying, Henry, like there's a lot of continuity in this side. Gasperini is, you know, probably the most probably holds more authority than any Serie A coach in terms of what he's done at the club, the respect that he garners, and you know, his ability to gel, you know, new signing after new signing and replace you know, outgoing stars is super impressive, and feel like pretty much as good as anyone in Europe in the last few years. So yeah, I think Atalanta have a great chance, but equally, like I kind of back them to stay at this level as long as Gasperini is there. So yeah, I think they've got as good a chance as anyone.
Absolutely. Roll on the December, January period, and let's get down the stretch next year and see who comes out on top of squeaky bum time in Italy. Guys, that's all we've got time for Continental Club for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed our How to Fix RB Leipzig, our big match predictions. Let me know your predictions, of course, in the comments down below, and whether Atalanta can reign supreme in Serie A. Guys, if they've enjoyed this, watch the Go and Watch Now. Henry, I'll come to you first. Anything you've worked on this week that you're particularly proud of?
We did transfer review, McCubbin and I. That's coming out.
That's out tomorrow, yeah.
On the Saturday, yes. We looked at whether or not Jude Bellingham, how he'd fit in at Liverpool, and also Rafael. Apparently he's been linked with Manchester City because as a potential maybe Ferran Torres replacement. We kind of debated whether or not we thought he was really at kind of City level at this moment in time. We've also got an Explained, I believe, which McCubbin can maybe tell you all about the AFCON, which is definitely worth looking out for too.
Nice. McCubbs, is that on FD?
I think it's on EFD on Sunday. Yeah, go and check that out. Just kind of talking about the clubs that have been most affected, a little bit of background as to the AFCON and why it takes place, or why it has classically taken place mid-season, and whether or not actually it's that big a problem compared to summer tournaments. Personally, I think it's a little bit overblown, the kind of some of the kind of unwanted hate that it gets. So yeah, go and check that out.
Jurgen Klopp led.
Sorry?
Jurgen Klopp led.
Exactly. I was planning to talk a lot about Jurgen Klopp in it, and actually, by the time I wrote it all, I was actually like, you know what, I can't really be bothered. I don't think it really adds too much. So yeah, there's not going to be much about Jurgen Klopp in there, but there is, you know, a lot about just kind of, you know, the clubs that will be missing the most players. And yeah, go and check out the hooliganism, the French hooliganism explained from last week. I know I've been blowing the trumpet all week, but it is very, very good. And I know Henry's too modest to plug it. So
Mikey, thank you. I just want to say one quickly. We did a 10 Giants enduring horrid trophy droughts this week. We get a lot of grief for not including Portuguese teams enough in this. I managed to sneak in Belenenses, who are a 4th tier Portuguese side, into that top 10. So I don't want to hear any nonsense anymore that we don't talk about Portuguese football when we're doing basically a team in the amateur leagues right now.
There might be a few more Portuguese teams popping up on these videos again though, because we are able to access a few more images these days than we were in the last year. So yeah, maybe keep an eye out for those.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll keep on focus on Portuguese football as well. And thank you very much for watching, guys. As ever, have a great weekend, and we will catch you on Monday. Bye.